A very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for sharing your afternoon with us for our 82nd presentation, which is on currency, the art of exchange. Money in tangible form is currency, and money is different from wealth because wealth is a much, much larger and more nuanced subject, and it includes property, it includes knowledge, it also includes metaphysics of love. We are not touching that. But that said, this topic, currency, has taxed my intelligence and I have enjoyed being so challenged. It was hard to curate this. So, again, money in tangible form is currency. Currency is defined as a system of money and as a measure of time, because we say, what the current time is what. So, the subject is immediate, relevant. The latter, the aspect of the time of the money, is very applicable in today's topic. Two important parameters for the definition of currency. The one that we are going to focus on is geography in terms of country and time in context of past, present, and future. Beginning with geography. In terms of geography, the United Nations recognizes 180, that's 180 currencies that are used in 195 countries. And regarding time, currency is almost poetic in that, like a current stream, the flow of water, currency, the material of money, shapeshift. It is the most beguiling shapeshifter. It has come in the form of nature, as you can see, cowrie shells. It has also come in skin, deer skin. The American dollar used to say the buck stops here because we used to have deer skin as trade for currency. Currency comes in man-made objects also, be it metal or paper, because we make paper. And now, in this day and age, it has become formless. It has become an article of faith because you do not touch cryptocurrency. And like God itself, cryptocurrency resides in the clouds, digital clouds. As I said earlier, it has been incredibly tough for me to curate this topic. And this is the most elegant framework of all the data I reviewed in preparation for today. The materials in the art of exchange have changed. Coins to paper money and then barter systems before, and they will continue to change. But what has been adamantine, steadfastly undergirding this exchange is value, our perceived sense of value, because money is a social creation. The manifestation of money, which is currency, depends on what society values. And value derives from the meaning we imbue into things. So be it shared value between partners, which could be individuals, it could be corporations, and it also could be nations. Values influence the quality and longevity of any relationship. And that is key because all business, all transactions, business is relationship. Relationship, or rather faith in the relationship to leadership, runs markets. Money, business, global economy responds to relationships. Business depends on that exchange of faith. As you can see on these, headers of newspaper articles and magazine articles, this relationship the money has with individuals and corporations and countries, it's evident in stock market rallies and busts, to political change, to any large scale change. The moment a leader of a company leaves or changes, the stock reflects it. Traders and the algorithms written all behave like anxious squirrels reacting emotionally, which affects currency because it's affecting money. So, economy again is based on relationships, and relationships are dependent on value. If people value cryptocurrency, something that no one can touch, well, then it'll be deemed valuable. And if you look at the markets today, it is deemed very valuable. This presentation on currency pivots on faith and freedom, which is the heart of a relationship. Am I free to leave a relationship when my faith is broken? Really reflect on that freedom in a relationship, any relationship. How easily can you pull your money out if you don't trust your investments anymore? If you lack faith in the people involved in the relationship, if you perceive no more value in it, can you pull out your money without penalties? Freedom is associated with those penalties. And omnipresent in this conversation about currency is technology. So the Nourishment Projects is about Joy's curiosity. And here are some of the references that inform this presentation. And again, this presentation today is not about wealth. It is about an aspect of wealth, money, coming in the tangible form of currency. One of the first forms of exchange in our history has been the barter system. In our agricultural past, cattle has been prized. And throughout history, across the globe, cattle, which in our conversation includes not only cows, but sheep and camel and lots of livestock, has been one of the oldest forms of money in the definition of an exchange as well. Other natural materials include mollusk, cowrie shells. Cowries has been used as currency in many parts of the world as early as the 7th century BCE being before current era in China. And in the 16th century, during the expansion of the transatlantic slave trade, demand for cowries in West Africa increased enormously. Cowries were the shell money of the slave trade. Because think about it, they're small, lightweight, easy to handle, and difficult, next to impossible to counterfeit. And so these durable shells had all the qualities necessary to be used as currency. And though cowrie shells are no longer used as currency in Africa, they still carry an association with money and wealth. And in Ghana, their history is honored on a 20 cedi coin. Cattle remains a form of currency in nomadic parts of the world. And African tribes once used glass beads, these were known as agri beads, as a medium of exchange, so as currency. Salt has been a form of currency, and the word salary comes from the Latin root of salarium, which means salt money or monthly allowance. Roman soldiers were paid with salarium, so were paid with salt. Bricks of tea were used as currency. It made me smile thinking, talk about money growing on trees, and in this case, specifically, camellia trees, to be precise. In Micronesia, places such as Guam and Palau, raised stones were used as money. And it reflects in their license plate, Island of Stone Money. Currencies have varied across the globe depending on what that society considered valuable. The Aztecs are said to have used beans of cacao, and in some sections of Arabia, coffee beans were used. Chinese vessels were employed as money among the Dayaks of northern Borneo, ordinary earthen vessel among the Balemba of the Transvaal area. Cakes of wax, balls of rubber, and many other objects have been variously listed as money, as currency. And through it all, technology has been prevalent. The kiln needed to make pottery, the technology needed to create glass beads from silica. It underpins what we consider currency. And if you think about it, minting coins, metal technology, printing money, again, paper and the printing itself, regardless of what kind of printing you're using, technology. These have great impacts on society. Again, money is a social creation, and in turn, it creates significant impact on society in how it arranges and organizes society. So if you look at it long term, initially, be it the Greeks or those in India, royalty in India, or even in Egypt, society, historically, ancient societies were hierarchical. Military and priesthood, so royalty, they were usually like they led armies. Military and priesthood dominated. And in terms of pharaoh, they combined together because the pharaoh was king himself or herself. Money didn't allow freedom of social movements during those times. An Egyptian worker, no matter how hard the person worked, no matter what they accrued, and they didn't accrue much, would not become a pharaoh ever. You would have to be born into royalty. The concept of money didn't play there because then you could not have any exchange of rank. And European feudal society also undercut money's role. Currency, that's what we're talking about. The basic relationship between master and vassal was mediated not by payment for services, but by an oath of loyalty and a promise of support. Land was not bought or sold, it simply belonged to whoever was in power, ultimately to the king, who granted use of lands to his lords, who in turn provided plots of land to their vassals. A feudal estate or fiefdom was most often a closed community that aimed to be self sufficient. In such a setting, money had very little use. What then happens when, through technology, making coin, paper money, that comes into play in our human history? When that happens, markets form, and markets are very different from bartering because bartering has limits. If you have a bunch of bananas and you want to get a pair of shoes, it's not just enough to find someone who has shoes or find someone who has bananas. To make the trade, you need to find someone who has shoes, who's willing to trade the shoes and wants bananas. Lots of things at play. And that's sometimes and most often quite a tough task. But when you have a common currency, the task becomes easier, doesn't it? You just sell your banana to anyone who wants banana for exchange of currency, whatever, however you see that money. And then you use that currency, which is going to be accepted throughout wherever your market is, to buy the shoes from someone else. This is the concept of market that exists everywhere, be it markets in India or online Amazon markets. Coin paper currency encouraged the spread of markets. The freedom in the exchange redefined how people see value and what they value. If you want a shoe and you have a banana, right, at that moment, that's what you're valuing. You're valuing a banana because that's what you've got. But the moment you get something so tangible and can be shape shifting to give you value everywhere, your sense of value changes. And so this pushes people to view things in economic, not social terms. And so then this is going to eventually, as you will see, affect the hierarchy. Even now, it's easy to understand money lubricates the freedom within social mobility. So from kingdom, where power is consolidated in select few. Here, for example, I'm showing Alexander the Great because there's no mobility going on there. There's no real concept of money there as we know it. It goes from royalty to non-royals, traders, merchants who acquired power through currency, whatever money they're dealing with. And why is this so important? This is what I found so interesting and hard to show. I hope it's coming across clearly. Millennia of social organization, social structuring crumbles when the vehicle of currency changes like this. Numismatic coins instantly shows that lived experience of how this restructuring happens. Look at this. Within 2 to 3 centuries, in the reverse verso of this coin, you're seeing John the Baptist. So from the 14th century, you jump just a few centuries to the 18th century. He goes from John the Baptist to the last Duke of the Medici dynasty, a banking family. There is no religion being represented here anymore, is it? And currency is fascinating the more you look into it. Because currency, in this way, if you look at currency, currency The form of currency dictates function of society. It's form dictating function. So observe, late 12th century, early 13th century. So now the proverbial Silk Roads are opened after the Crusades because the Mongols are in power and they're great into trade. So they open up all the roads across Eurasia. Pax Mongolica allows traders like Marco Polo to travel. City-states like Venice become powerful through trade. Trade of silk, trade of alum, the mordant used to dye textiles. And make no mistake, Venice traded in slaves as well. All of it, Venice becomes more powerful, a city-state. From the time of the Crusades, remember, as religion spreads, people are shifting geographically. And there is a great need to be able to carry wealth safely. It is not very safe to carry bags of coin, is it? It's also very inconvenient. That's where banking comes in during the time of the Crusades. In the city-state of Florence, one family becomes very powerful through the banking structure, the Medicis, because they're allowing people, they're giving them credit, well, credit as we know it, but in a different form, to carry wealth, currency in a different form instead of bags of coins. And then, as you can see in Florence's Palazzo Vecchio, right next to the room of the goddess Ceres, where she's the one responsible for supplying men with riches of the fruits of the earth. Right next to that room for the goddess is a room dedicated to Cosimo the Elder, the Medicis. The frescoes here honor Cosimo, since his family, the Medicis, had brought greatness and abundance of wealth to the Florentines. So I'm going to zoom in on that picture. Here is Cosimo returning, welcomed back home with honor. First question, I'm sure you're thinking, where did he go? Why did he leave? Here's a very interesting story. 13th century Florence had kicked out nobles and introduced a 9-man government elected by lot from among the wealthier property owners of the city-state. This government was elected every 2 months. Rich men thereby used their money to control the city's destiny. They wanted to get their own people into power. The founder of the family bank, Giovanni di Bicci de' Medici, had warned his son Cosimo not to speculate in politics. Cosimo thought otherwise, and very soon political conflicts developed when he tried to rise above his station. He was arrested for treason, and thanks to bribery, he was exiled and not executed. The prodigal son returns to Florence a year later when a new government favorable to him has formed, and that government is in much need of cash. Cosimo now returns wiser, and with his money ensures that future ministers will always be friendly to him. He abolishes a law, too, that made interest-bearing loans difficult. So did you catch that? The word interest-bearing loans. That's what makes this story interesting. That's the interest I was referring to. The ability to charge interest. Use money to make money by not doing any work. There's an old term for it, usury. We are accustomed to it, to paying interest, but church doctrines, not so much. Usury, which is charging interest, is punishable. It's deemed a sin. It's even depicted in Dante's Inferno, and it's in the same circle of hell as sodomy. Usury, charging interest, is right up there in the same level. Can you believe that? So here are bankers being depicted. And though not part of our discussion directly, this concept of usury has odious links to anti-Semitism. The couple in this painting is not dressed as members of nobility, but rather as well-to-do burghers of Antwerp, where the painting was made. And you can tell they're well-to-do by what they have, the mirror, the Book of Hours, its illustrated manuscript, all the coins on their desk. They're showing all the trappings of wealth. At the time that this is done, Antwerp had grown with the influx of many southern immigrants fleeing the Spanish Inquisition, many of them of the Jewish faith. Faith and freedom and money, it's quite a trinity. And among this international community, then, there was a demand for money changers and money lenders because international commerce was increasing in the port city of Antwerp. But what is happening to Catholic Cosimo, who's in Florence? Ensconced in wealth, he's concerned about heavenly matters. Specifically, how is he going to get into heaven? As a banker who gets wealthier minute by minute through usury, a sin, how is he going to manage this? Look at the symbolism of the art he commissions. The Magi. He's linking himself to quite a huge amounts of power, isn't he, Cosimo? Fun little fella. Because he's not commissioning paintings like the Last Judgment. His future progeny will, but that'll come soon enough. His artwork is very telling. So what does Cosimo do to get into heaven? Cosimo consults his bank's client, the Pope. Pope Eugenius is Pope Eugene IV. And the good Pope suggests restore the Basilica de San Marco. It's a monastery. If you do so, you will have mercy. And that became a first of a very long and extremely generous series of renovations and investments by Cosimo in devotional art. And in this fresco, Vasari paints the moment when Cosimo the Elder reveals his noble origin to Sante Benevoglio. So there's no problem. He's going to go to heaven because all the saints are conversing with him. Art freed Cosimo's soul. Usury laws be damned. San Marco houses works by Fra Angelico. If you really look at it, knowing this background, it makes one look at Fra Angelico's Christ mocked in a new light, doesn't it? Because don't forget, all this high art is happening due to currency. The technology that allows for interest, banking credits, whose value increases through interest. This would not happen if you're dealing with coins. Because if you had a bag of coins and you didn't put it in a bank, the value of the number of coins would not change. But if you put those coins in a bank and you come back later, and the interest raised might have added one more coin to your little bag. So that interest, money for nothing, is a sin according to church doctrines. Essentially because money is copulating, and copulation, as the snake will tell you, is a sin in Christian eyes. That is why interest is not allowed. It's a sin. In return for his generous contribution, Cosimo was granted a papal bull, which is a papal decree made by the Pope, absolving Cosimo of all his sins from making wealth, making money through charging interest. And the words of that papal bull are engraved in Cosimo's his tombstone in San Marco. You can read it. By condemning usury and stoking fear of social and political consequences, the church, do realize, grew richer from the usurer's need to buy forgiveness and respectability. Christ mocked indeed, because look now carefully. Look at Cosimo's tombstone. The very opulence of the type and quality of marbles used attests to the wealth and status of the patron, as does the placement of the slab in the center of the crossing, directly in front of the high altar, a location available only to Cosimo as the major patron of the church, and everyone knows his business deals in interest. These are huge things during those times. Religion is a overpowering presence during 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th century Europe. The tomb slab is placed in line with the oculus of the church dome. So symbolically, it's creating a bond between the body below and the spirit above. The geometric and mathematical structure of the slab composition is also intended to be very emblematic. So if you can see clearly, the composition contains a circle surrounded by a square, which is perhaps referring to the squaring the circle, a problem posed by ancient mathematicians that had been referenced in Dante's Paradiso, not Inferno, as a representation of the limits of terrestrial knowledge. These devices all serve to place Cosimo in a central position aligned with the cosmos. So the development of humanist and Neoplatonic thought gave rise to the use of geometric forms in art. And here, these are the things that I love and I'm so happy to share with you. Here is the real Medici cunning. Intelligence, one might call it. Others call it cunning. Under Cosimo's protection, the philosopher and eventual priest, Marsilio Ficino, translated the entire works of Plato into Latin in the 1460s and the 15th century. And in the frescoes of this church of Maria Novella, you will see Eccola Ficino. And what Ficino did is that he added his personal but crucial twist in the translation into the Christian Platonism, which the term itself is a jarring term because Plato had scant little to do with Christ in terms of sheer existence of Plato and the existence of Christ. What Ficino did, he stated in his work, it says opera trala because that's what opera means. It means work. That is what the term means. Ficino had added that the human soul was the center of nature. We all find that to be true, like the soul is becoming divine. Where did we get those points of view? That Neoplatonic concept illustrates most of Renaissance art. Look at the timing. High Renaissance art comes at a time when usury, collecting interest, is considered most sinful, and yet was most diligently and anxiously practiced by the bankers. They were well aware of what they were doing. One sees these Neoplatonic beliefs, and this is coming because he translated Plato's work. One sees these works, these philosophies show up in Botticelli's work, not only in the meaning, because this is part of a triptych actually, not only in the meaning of what it's, trying to communicate, but also explicitly, because you see all those oranges in the background. That is the symbol of the Medicis. Because oranges are expensive, that is the symbol of the Medici family. Again, funding, patronage, Raphael's School of Athens, all this Neoplatonic art funded by usury, interest earning currency. And we are obviously playing with a very broad picture, but you can extract the meanings. Patronage affects music as well. Monteverdi, the Renaissance of opera from the Greek times, is attributed to him. This is all affecting what is being chosen, the operas being chosen. Opera seria, opera comique, these are all coming through these. He's doing all historic operas on Greek myths. By the time Michelangelo shows up, it's at the tail end of the Renaissance. And so look now at the art. These are not Botticelli's Primavera or the birth of Venus. These are not Neoplatonic ideas at all. These are more biblical, absolutely less Neoplatonic. Why is that? The rise of the Orthodox Christian reformers and the constant intrigues within the Roman Christian Church led to political instability. As you see, less trust, leading to the fall and ultimately expulsion of the Medici family from Florence towards the end of the 15th century. Again, business is relationship. People trust them less. The banking starts falling. The conflict also led to the wholesale destruction of valuable art and literature from the Medici library, which was produced under the patronage of the Medici family. I always wondered what happened to all their books because they were a sign of wealth. I never hear of them. You see the arts only, or mainly. Ironically, it didn't stop the Medici influence. The influence actually spread through marriage. And look at all the connections. We are going to skip through these, but I want you to be aware operas gained prominence initially because they were performed at royal marriages. That's how they gained popularity. The rich do it, the wealthy do it, the royal do it, the aristocratic then falls through. They patron, they commission these operas and many other things. Why did a king marry a banker's daughter? Money, currency, access to it. Within a year of the marriage, the king died, and then Catherine moves to the Louvre Palace and eventually creates the Tuileries Palace and Gardens to create memories of her hometown. You guessed it, Florence. Influence of currency. Look what's happening. So the vehicle of banking allowed for wealth generation through interest, and it bought and brought influence of Italy, other places. So the wealthy Italians, through trade, had been influenced by Ottoman gardens. Ottomans were great lovers of gardening, and the Italians picked up from them. And then the Italians influenced the gardens in France and other places. The more the Medicis married into French royalty, the influence, the Italian influence on France grew more and more. And it was not just limited to gardens. Things like forks. It was when she got married, she brought the forks over, this concept of the fork. Initially, the French didn't want to use forks. They thought it was devil work. All of this is, look it up, it's fascinating. Italian gardens designs inspired park designs of Paris, Arc de Triomphe, Champs-Élysées, and then these then inspired the city layouts in cities such as Washington, D.C. and New Delhi, India. Look how influences go through. These are all, most of this has been covered. These sections were covered in our presentation about 3 years ago on gardens. So I just leapt. Hopefully you'll remember. So currency bought and spread influence. We're going to jump over the French and American Revolution, in which, by the way, currency played a very important part. The American Revolution was funded by French currency and by the newly minted Continental Congress currency because the country was forming them. And look at them. They had such, this is just my side note. Look at this beautiful marble paper. How gorgeous is that? Our money doesn't look anything like this. But more importantly, this weren't very solvent. And in 1776, a committee led by Thomas Jefferson recommended to the Continental Congress that the US create a basic unit of currency called the dollar. The US dollar derived its name from a Spanish and Austrian coin originally called the thaler, named for Wachmistal, which is a silver mining town in Bohemia. That's the history, the etymology of dollar, thaler. Back to the story of currency, the more relevant parts, framed between faith and freedom. The story now leaps across the French and American revolutions to come to the Industrial Revolution, which to me is effectively an English revolution, because most of this building, the influence is coming from England. Look at this steam engine, the smaller tugboat heralding the Industrial Revolution because it's pulling the old ship that was used during the Napoleonic War. Look, it's not working anymore. It's that little tiny, the little boat that could, powered by steam, symbol of the Industrial Revolution. One of the symbols anyway, because there you go, steam again, railroads. Industry powers change. You see it in Europe. You also see it in America. Monopolies galore. The JP Morgan, the Morgan families dominated American banking. And they're so like the Medicis, if you see it from a long route, you see it in the architecture. How Italian Renaissance looking is this? And influenced by that anyway. You see it in the style, in the color. What is it that they're expressing? What are they showing? Dominant power across the board. You see this. They're not the only ones. The Carnegies, the Rockefeller founded the Standard Oil Company in 1870, and he amassed massive influence through oil because oil was needed, diesel oil in the American Revolution. Money flooded through the banks. through interest and all of this, the amount of money he accrued, no amount of commodities could give him that amount. It could only come because it had been transferred into issues of stocks, things like that, to the banks. The world didn't have enough amount of currency in the form of gold and silver to be presented. Those commodities are finite. Paper money isn't. Issuing credit through a bank isn't, because that's not real, but it's more real than what it has become now. But you see in the story, bigger changes are coming. Because look, empire building is coming to an end. World War One, World War Two ensures it, because wars are costly. Empires are hard to maintain for England. And don't forget, if you look at the large picture, empire building, it is a papal decree, the Treaty of Tordesillas, that sanctioned empire building, that sanctioned colonization. It said, you can go and effectively conquer a land if it is not Christian, which is very odd because St. Thomas had come to India way before Britain did, so it technically shouldn't have been there. And it's probably true in many other countries as well. But again, faith and freedom. This is as much, this concept of faith is as much about merchandise consumption as it is about missionary work. And so now, with former colonies becoming independent nations, and like we said, 180 currencies in 195 countries, new currencies formed. And so, how did the world react? So, as far as the story is concerned, look at it in chunks of decades, not years. Because in terms of time, I'm leaping through. This is the aspect of story I wanted to share today. So the stock markets of the early 20th century eventually, because this is what's happening, this is where currency is flowing, not just hand paper money, you're increasing your money. This brings our story to Chicago, the stock exchange, because on May 16th, 1972, the Chicago Money Pit opened as the first currency futures market. So the technology, like that is why this came up. It's undergirding all of this. The technology went from creating metal and paper into creating computers and satellites. It is the technology of computers and satellites that helped move money now around the world at an accelerated speed. Money markets. The money supply of dollars measured in printed currency and bank deposits grew from $750 billion in 1972 to 10 times the amount, about $7.5 trillion by 2007. So the currency markets differ from all others because if you think about it, no goods are exchanged. In the currency market, traders exchange the money of one country for the money of another country. There are no goods involved in this trade whatsoever. The only quantity is money. All transactions are instantaneous and electronics because see, technology is allowing for this. This makes it possible. This is a pure exchange. Currencies fluctuating freely, unbounded by geography, on an open market integrated by computers and satellites. And so the US dollar's strength is measured against a basket of 6 influential currencies, which now includes the euro, the British pound, the Japanese yen, the Canadian dollar, the Swedish krona, and the Swiss franc. Don't you find it funny that the Chinese currencies are included? Because as far as trade is concerned nowadays, China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is our modern day Silk Road equivalent, it is crisscrossing the globe. Chinese banks and companies are funding and building roads, power plants, ports, railway, 5G networks, and fiber optic cables around the world. Countries that cannot make payments, cannot pay their interests, are then indebted to China. Pakistan, Angola, Ethiopia, Zambia, Sri Lanka, Argentina, Kenya, Turkey are among the most prominent nations with significant debt owed to China due to loans taken through the Belt and Road Initiative. Keep all this in mind. This is why we are leaping. It's very interesting. The other Silk Road in our conversation is the dark web. That's what they call that online black market, which started in 2011. They called it the Silk Road. It allowed anonymous buyer users to buy and sell products and services. Much of it was illegal, what they were selling and buying between each other. In October 2013, the site was shut down by the FBI. And then look what happened. On that very same day, the value of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, fell because Bitcoin came into play through these illegal activities. This is where Bitcoin first started being used, cryptocurrency, and it has come a long way legitimizing or trying to legitimize itself. Because again, trust. If you don't trust the source, you are not going to have any business transactions with it. Would you like to deal with a currency that you know is associated mainly with illegal activities? I don't think you would. Most banks wouldn't. Legitimacy is very important. Trust is important. Business is relationship. I am able to convey the larger picture. The global cryptocurrency market capital value is staggering. And it would put it in some of the top 20 economies of the world. Of that market cap, Bitcoin, which is one of the largest cryptocurrency, has a market cap of about $2 trillion today. I think the global cryptocurrency market cap today is about $3.78 trillion, of which two goes to Bitcoin. So cryptocurrency is all about decentralized banking. So you see how currency is moving across time. Barter went to bank, and that banking changed society. It allows merchants and bankers to rise power. Kings and kingdoms lost power. Priesthood lost power because merchants became wealthy, bankers became super powerful, made influences throughout. Aren't you interested in thinking what's going to happen when this shift goes into decentralized banking? This is in our current and future timeline of our topic. And in this case, geography is irrelevant because this is omnipresent. This is happening online. Cryptocurrency runs on digital ledgers called blockchain. So blockchain is a technology that records and stores transaction and other data in a supposedly secure, transparent, and permanent way. What I'm not also focusing on is the amount of energy and the impact on climate because it takes huge amounts of energy to maintain the server because it's keeping massive amounts of data, keeping this digital ledger. Here are some of the better known blockchains. They're all in play now, trying to get better and better. There are two major cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and stablecoin. And within stablecoin, there are many subcategories, but I'm not going into getting lost in the weeds. Effectively, a stablecoin is a cryptocurrency that is designed to minimize price volatility. And it does this by pegging its price to a more stable asset. So it's backed typically by a fiat currency or a hard commodity such as a gold. And by fiat currency, I mean any currency that's backed by a government. You're taking it on faith. If the government drops, there's nothing you can really do about it, but you're going to trust this government is going to last. You see, again, business's relationship. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is backed by no government, and its value isn't rooted in any precious metals whatsoever. Instead, it's distributed across the entire network of users, and it's rooted in complex digital mathematics. What I mean by that, the way when it was set up, you can only ever have, if I remember right, 21 million Bitcoins. And it's scheduled to run out in like 2040 or something like that. You cannot mint Bitcoins after that. Every 4 years, the amount of Bitcoins you can mint drops in half. And so the value goes up every 4 years for sure. It goes up anyway. And so you mint these coins because they don't exist. You mint them by solving complex mathematical problems. You're not solving them. The technology and the algorithms does. This is how Bitcoin comes into being. Yeah, I feel very safe, trust, thinking this is where I want to go. But anyway, many companies are involved in blockchain formations. Meta, which is the company for Facebook, the company now that used to be Facebook, tried to create a blockchain-based stablecoin payment system called Diem. I'm assuming he meant it after Carpe Diem seized the day, but shut down its effort in 2022. I'm sure some other companies are going to figure out how to have a decent, stable Bitcoin. Meta wanted to go it through its own thing, but I think if the problem was it wasn't doing through an open protocol, so people didn't trust it. Again, trust becomes into play. Relationships are dependent on trust and value. So the conversation on cryptocurrency is again very interesting. One reason is Islamic banking structures absolutely do not deal with interest accounts as it is against their religious beliefs. I don't know if any of you really considered how the world of Islam does banking. Currencies, as we had said, were originally a medium of exchange, and making them a tradable commodity for profit earning is against the philosophy of Islamic economies. Lots of debate are going on in the world of Islamic banking, where many feel cryptocurrency has no intrinsic value, is not a real currency, and easily used for illegal activities, and that it has no legitimate central authority, no country backing it up. Now, these issues of trust are central to the idea of value. This idea of value is something that money pivots on. So think about it. Investors like Elon Musk, but there are many others who have citizenship in 3 countries. I believe he has citizenship in the United States, in Canada, and he's also, if I'm not mistaken, a citizen of South Africa. When it comes to loyalty, which country, forget country, what would someone like this be loyal to? These matter, I feel. Bitcoin, something that materially does not exist, you cannot touch it, is worth more than one of the most successful product companies in the world, Apple. Today's stock price for Apple is $248 a share. You see, it says up here, December 19th, for both of them. Value for Bitcoin is $101,000 a share. Those numbers are unreal to me. But perhaps it is not unreal to a generation that's growing up in a virtual world. For example, if you don't know this, you will be quite interested in this. In the popular online game World of Warcraft, players use in-game currency called gold to buy armor, horses, and these are all digital, none of this is real, and potions in this World of Warcraft. And since earning this virtual gold is very time consuming, American and European players often bought this virtual gold currency from enterprising businessmen who set up sweatshops called gold farms, where people worked 12-hour shifts. I shouldn't say worked, they probably still do, earning virtual gold, playing games, and they will sell these virtual golds for real money. And so the sweatshops players get around, they used to get, numbers fluctuate, around 30 cents an hour, playing a game all day long. The sweatshop owners make real world profit. They made a ton of profit all this. And the Western gamers, be it in Europe or America, got paid real money, real currency to get virtual gold to play in his virtual world. Another massively online popular game is Minecraft. So if you look at Minecraft, what is it telling? And look at the ages Minecraft is played in, less than 15. So I'm showing you less than 15. These are the age groups who play these games. If you go to online YouTube video, it has many videos saying, how do you make real money playing Minecraft all day long? If you think of it, this is the future citizens around the world being conditioned to accept this kind of reality. To them, it's not jarring at all that you're paying $101,000 for something you could never touch. That's how this works. This is the reality. And what happens? It all comes down to the sense of value. Because look, it has gone from barter to banking to decentralized banking. And this decentralized banking is pitched as you can avoid transaction cost. You can unlock value. Funny, isn't it? Because as stated in the beginning, business is about relationship. Society's relationships with the idea of value will determine how currency, cryptocurrency, shapes our lives. That is why it was demonstrated with the story of the Medicis, how currency flow has had revolutionary changes in our lives already because banking came in. It changed the structure of society. Hierarchical structure changed. Now we don't have religion for the most part. We have very few structured setup to organize society. In comes cryptocurrency. Isn't it exciting to know what is going to happen? We live in very, very interesting times. And that is the story I wanted to share with you. But before I end, I think I have a few more time. Yes, I do. I wanted to review next year's presentation schedule. It had been sent to you. I'll quickly review now. Starts with January 16th. The topic is buttons, titled Unbutton. February, the title is called Meanderings. It's going to be about classical art. I think if you are docents, and just about anybody, there'll be a very interesting way of seeing art now. Classical art, exactly what you may have missed before. March 20th, the topic is Himalayas. It's going to be focused on botany and exploration. April 17th, the entire presentation is on the Tudors. I love this picture, the white and the red rose. May 22nd, topic, the title is called Grind. It's really about pressure. It's all about planet Earth. June 19th presentation is Lacquer. I love this thing. I think it's gorgeous. July 17th, topic is rice. August 21st, topic is leaf. That subject itself is fascinating. Well, all these subjects fascinate me. That's why I chose them. September 18th, feather. October 23rd, it's about arrangements. It's not really about ikebana. It's a subject is flower. You'll be surprised. Well, I hope you're always surprised. November 20th, the commodity silver. And the year ends something fun. Collars. It's almost bookended, right? I start with buttons, I end with collars. I hope it holds your interest because I have to tell you, it's the end of the year and we've been doing it for a while now. It gives me great pleasure to spend my time with you. I hope I do your time justice, that you find things in here that brings you joy, tickles your brain. That's the whole point of it, because I'm very grateful for your time. I'm going to stop sharing now. Have a wonderful rest of the year. Please take care.